Hey, welcome to SquishiVision. Still on my mobile device because my computer is still bricked. But I finished watching episode 5 of Obi-Wan Kenobi. It's my immediate reactions, not time to go through it or pick out details or anything like that. But yeah, as is much the case with a penultimate episode of a series, this is very lore heavy and very backstory heavy. We get a lot of things revealed. Everyone who was. Sorry. Got some cereal there. Everyone who it was hating on the first episode for apparently breaking canon, or breaking continuity with the killing of the Grand Inquisitor, got the reveal today that John Chris was actually alive all along. This was the plan all along. Everyone was hating the fact that Raven knew that Vader was Anakin, even though like plenty of people know that Vader's Anakin. Not like most of the galaxy no, but plenty of like individuals knew. Like that one more person doesn't like shatter the continuity of the show. That's explained. My only real kind of continuity grievance, and the thing I was kind of trying to work out in my heart, was the how to combine this series with the meeting of Vader and Ben Kenobi in A New Hope, and kind of how that emotionally kind of connects. And I guess this might Obi-Wan kind of gets a very much an emotional, spiritual, and arguably slightly like a manifestly physical victory over Anakin in this episode, and Anakin gets outsmarted. So potentially that kind of actually also fixes the whole, when we last met I was the learner, now I am the master thing, because I guess although it's I don't know who on what kind of basis that comes from, but I guess that kind of helps connect that as well. So this is pretty strong episode. Like all the players kind of moving into the position. We get River's backstory, and it's pretty much as I guessed. She was one of the kids we saw in the opening of part 2. And she survives at playing dead, which kind of seems a bit too easy. You think that, surely like Vader can like detect who's actually dead and who's not dead, but I guess, surely if you could survive playing dead, more people will survive. Maybe more people did survive. I guess there's no kind of real, firm answer that everyone who was in who got attacked during Operation Nightfall died. So yeah, I guess that kind of helps explain that part. The bit with Vader at the end bringing down the ship and like just tearing it apart in anger, that's very kind of Force Unleashed moment there. I liked that. I like the whole. I still like the whole. I still love what this show is doing with like trying to make Vader more terrifying. Like Vader's already a pretty terrifying villain. I'm pretty sure like in like several different like rankings, Vader's pretty high up top in terms of being a villain. In terms of I think I've watched around in my youth watching like a top 100 villains in movies show on like Sky something or whatever. Back when like Sky One was a thing, I think Vader was like number 1 or something. Like he's a pretty iconic, distinct villain, and but like obviously was limited hugely by like film at the time. I think Vader stalking Luke on Cloud City was probably like his most terrifying on-screen presence. But this show is like every time he appears on screen, there's just that absolute ominence about it. His duel with River, where he's like just clearly playing with her, like absolutely like not at all bothered by this thing, just like using her to get off some steam. And then we also get this episode intercut with flashbacks to sometime presumably between episode 1 and episode 2, where although probably closest to episode 2, because we see Obi-Wan with his like long haired wig version of Obi-Wan, which is my least favorite version of Obi-Wan, but they're wearing the similar clothes. I'm not sure if or how much de-aging tech they used, because it doesn't seem on par with the normal kind of flawless de-aging tech that Disney have had in the past. In that they look I don't know, maybe it's because this is the first time I've actually seen it used on somebody who I am very familiar with, like, as in, you know, most of the people that Disney have de-aged in the past, like Robert Downey Jr. and Samuel Jackson, and Michael Douglas, you've de-aged them to ages before I was born, or before I really kind of knew them, and like I hadn't like seen much of their work from the age they were de-aged to. So I was like, oh, this is a new image, so I got nothing to kind of compare it to. Whereas obviously I'm very familiar with the prequel trilogy. I've watched it several times, and I'm very kind of familiar with, you know, I've seen clips of and images of how they looked thousands of times from that from those films. So I'm very familiar with how they're meant to look, and I guess the fact that they don't look, excuse me, but they don't look like that now, I guess it's slightly off-putting. Either that, or they haven't de-aged them as much, they're being a bit cautious, or I don't know, maybe they didn't even de-age them at all. I mean, Hayden Christensen and Ewan McGregor have aged pretty well, so maybe they're like, oh, we don't need to de-age them, they look fine as they are. It was only a tiny bit distracting, but for the most part, it was. I mean, I've lived longer through the era of trying to convince people that older actors are younger versions of themselves and they have the aging period, so I guess I'm kind of used to it. But I do like that kind of intercut between that and the kind of message it was trying to give about, you know, Vader and Anakin still being kind of slaves to their emotions rather than thinking about things long term and keeping a cooler head, and how that kind of matches this episode where Obi-Wan uses his head over his emotions and over his passion, and he ultimately wins. And we're building up to things. We're seeing a bit more kind of Obi-Wan being a bit more of the Jedi that people kind of expect him to be, but still a bit rusty. We got some good kind of like tense, like siege plots. A lot of also, like how it's kind of like he turns up and pretty much every kind of like Hajar's just randomly there. He's like, "Why are you here?" And I'm kind of like, Hajar's like, "Well, I'm too much of a, I'm not a Will of Cameo kind of character kind of thing." But yeah, I mean, it's a very simple episode. I do like the kind of just the moments where both Ewan McGregor and Obi-Wan and Vader are just like contemplating and thinking. Like, I like how the episode's giving them time to breathe about it. I very much like that. Anyway, I've got to go. I have a meeting in about 5 minutes I need to prepare for. And as you can tell, my kind of stumbling around, I'm still very much not in the zone. This is the problem with doing these first thing in the morning. Brain's not all there. Also, I like how they assumed Raver was going to be dead just from stabbing her, and she's clearly not dead, and clearly there's... So I think we're building up to a strong finale. I think it seems like we're going to return to more kind of Tatooine, Luke action. Raver apparently now knows that Vader... Well, knows about the children, possibly the connection between Vader, it's unclear. But maybe she'll put two and two together. But I mean, I don't care what side she's actually on. I mean, she was driven by revenge. She's not on the Empire side because by any means, but so you'd assume there'd be no danger. But I don't know, maybe she wants to kill Vader, so maybe she's prepared to use this as a way to get to Vader, and she's clearly not a long-term thinker, or like particularly good at hiding her motivations. So who's to say? I'm surprised it took them this long to get to Alderaan. You think that this episode explains why we didn't go straight to Alderaan. I was like, I'm like, well, on a ship now, but a ship can go anywhere. Surely they'll go straight to Alderaan, but no, they need to go and pick up the refugees first, which makes sense. And I guess, you know, maybe the ways that the direction is. So I'm glad they explained that. But at this point, I'm like, well, surely now they must just be able to go to Alderaan. Oh, well, actually, they're being chased by the Empire and they've got no hyperdrive. So I guess there's a lot of things to kind of deal with in the next episode. I think I've set up like 2 different dilemmas, so hopefully they haven't like given too much to do too late. Anyway, I've got a dash. thanks for watching into this. I will watching into this. I guess that's a phrase. And I'll see you guys maybe later today, because I need to watch Captain Marvel, because that's the problem with Disney releasing 2 shows in the same day. So I'll see you then. Thinking about things long term. So hopefully they haven't given too much to do too late. Anyway, I've got a dash. Thanks for watching into this. I will watching into this. I guess that's a phrase. And I'll see you guys maybe later today, because I need to watch Captain Marvel, because that's the problem with Disney releasing 2 shows in the same day. So I'll see you then.